a lot of people think that baseball and volleyball are completely different sports. Baseball is on the ground, the ball's in your hand, the ball's smaller, it probably weighs a little bit different. There is a lot of more probably going on in volleyball with the jump and the approach and an airborne object, and then you're also airborne and you're contacting it as opposed to having it in your hand the whole time. And I just wanted to discuss that. I really think baseball and volleyball are super similar as far as the first principles in biomechanics that build to great outcomes. We were talking about the energy flow today. We were talking about hip-shoulder separation, about scap, about all the biomechanics of each joint. I think all of those transfer, honestly, like, would you say 100%? I mean, if it's truly grounded in biomechanics and physics, it is 100%.
Yeah, I mean, there's an argument for that, and then there's argument where the differences are, and there is differences.
There are differences, and can you explain to me what those differences are that you see in the, it's kind of like going from like Spanish to English, like there will be some translation differences and, you know, ideas you can't express quite as clearly with different languages, but yeah, if you can.
I even look at it too, like the weight room, like, you know, you're going to say like a clean and jerk is very different from a deadlift, but isn't there similarities? Technically, they're different, but we're still the same bodies. Y'all are hilarious.
He's not that intelligent, is he?
Somebody almost walked in front of the camera, so we were just joking about that.
Okay, so yeah, I totally agree. But I think, like, I like to use the understanding of the weight room. It's like there's such a variety of exercises, but they all have a lot of similarities, that things that connect them. Yeah, like a clean and jerk is very different from a deadlift, but in the first phase of pulling the weight off to the floor, I'm very similar to deadlifting the weight.
A deadlift is like this kind of, and a clean is like this.
Right. So there's obviously more complexity in the clean and jerk than there is in the deadlift, but there's a lot of things in the deadlift that are the clean and jerk. So that's where I think it gets silly to say that the sports don't connect, or they're so far apart they don't help each other. That's impossible, because we're the same bodies trying to create forces. I'm trying to create forces when I spike, and I'm trying to create forces when I throw, and I'm trying to create forces when I hit, and therefore we share a lot in common because of it.
Yeah, and what would you say to this? I've heard people tell me, like, Miles, you know, they hear me talking about this baseball stuff, and they're like, but you're airborne. I often talk about hips, and they're like, it's not really hips, Miles. When you're airborne, you don't have the ground and your feet connected to it, and then your hips, they're like, it's more core. And I'm like, but my hips are connected to my core, so what do you mean by that? And I would just like to get your understanding of, like, what are the differences to be aware of? Your baseball, you got this really long stride. Yes, you have the ground reaction forces that are more directly happening. It's not a jump and then hit, it's more direct. But what do you think how do you
It's the same in the weight room. Going back to the weight room analogy, there's movements that are called closed chain and open chain. So for example, with a bench press, that's an open chain, meaning the chain's not closed. It's floating, it's free. It's actually loading the body a little differently than a closed chain. A closed chain is a push-up. I'm pushing into a force that's not moving. Now I'm stable, that's closed. Open is the barbell, closed is the floor. But it's still the same thing. My muscles don't know it's open and closed or stable, unstable. The muscles are still trying to do the same thing. So let's go to throwing to spiking. It's throwing, my feet are engaged to the ground, so it's using the ground more continuously with more stability. That would be more like closed chain. And when I'm up in the air, I'm still doing the same thing with my body and my legs, but it's more open chain, so there's less stability. So
you have to create that stability in the air, right?
Yeah, you have to, it's challenging. You're having to work a little bit harder to find it, but you're still using the same mechanism, the same body, the same sequencing to find it as if you were on the ground using it.
I see. Okay, well that kind of clears it up. That's a great way. Baseball is kind of closed chain, volleyball is open chain. You have to kind of do more counterbalancing with your legs and some other things to find that stability, but ultimately, I mean, yeah, there's differences and similarities, and
but it's still, you're still using your legs for force, because if not, you wouldn't be off the ground. So if for someone to say it's more core, then say, well, why are my feet this high off the ground when I do it? Did my core do that?
What do you mean?
Well, How did I get my feet this high off the ground? How
Oh,
high?
my legs.
You jump pretty high.
Oh,
How high
yeah.
do you jump?
Yeah,
That high?
I jump like 34
So how
inches.
did your feet get to here if it's a core movement? Right? So that's the
Yeah,
kind
I
of
mean,
thing.
Yeah, so the legs get you to that jump,
Which is energy, which then my body sequences and uses.
which goes through the hips.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, yeah, to me, the hip shoulder separation is another way of saying stretch your core almost.
Yeah. Because
Very
we're not
similar.
jumping just to get elevated. We're jumping to use energy to get to the ball. So there's two reasons we jump.
Got it, got it. That's helpful too. All right, well, that's just to dispel, in my opinion, a little bit of the myth between the differences between sports. I hope we can learn how much in common there is and really leverage off of all the expertise that Brent has developed, that the baseball world has developed, all the studies and academic resources. I think there's a lot of transfer that can be had, and that's why I'm here today. So, yeah.